Welcome to the Eye of the Observer podcast, the podcast of the Observer news staff. On Eye of the Observer, we'll be interviewing the newsmakers and fascinating personalities at Elgin Community College. Or sometimes we'll be talking about news or cultural topics among ourselves to inform and entertain you. My name's Vansh.
I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
And on this episode, we'll be discussing the pros and cons of movie theaters versus streaming services. But before we jump into the episode, we just wanted to let you guys know that today's podcast is sponsored by Columbia College of Missouri. At Columbia College of Missouri's Elgin location, you can invest in your future while earning an accredited degree faster with 8-week classes starting 6 times a year. Columbia's flexible classes are designed with working adults in mind. Columbia offers classes online, in person on ECC's campus, or virtual, wherever you are. Transfer seamlessly from Elgin Community College, or let Columbia College of Missouri review your courses from any college. A bachelor's degree may be closer than you think. Apply today at no cost at elgin.ccis.edu. That's elgin.ccis.edu.
So why compare movie theaters and streaming services, guys? Why are we talking about this?
Well, I mean, streaming services kind of make movie theaters obsolete at this point. You want to watch a movie, just go home, pop a bag of popcorn and, put any movie.
Yeah, I feel the same way there. Like, instead of really, expending the gas and driving all the way to movie theater and buying their high-priced popcorn, you could really just like stay at home and watch whatever's on your streaming services, especially when you have good deals like what you get for Apple TV or Disney Plus. Like, you basically have access to every movie that comes out, with some exceptions, at your own display at home.
It might take a while since the release date, but streaming services kind of have every movie. I mean, you've never heard of, hey, let's go to the movie theaters and chill. You always heard of Netflix and chill.
I mean, I would say movie theaters are way better. I'm not gonna lie.
But why would you think that, Eric? I
Well,
mean,
'cause,
we always
listen.
just sit at home.
Listen. Okay, so you see a new movie coming out, right? In the like the trailers on YouTube or when you're watching YouTube and an ad comes up, it's usually a movie trailer, right? I'd say it's much better to experience get the full movie theater experience than just sitting down, not having like a surround sound whatsoever. I would say it's much better to go into the movie theaters, having popcorns with friends or families, and just watching the movie, at a movie theater.
Yeah, so there are definitely some pros and cons of being in a movie theater. What Eric just pointed out is like togetherness with family and friends, if I got that right. You go out of your way to go to a movie theater. You're really investing in the time you have with others and going on a little excursion, even though it's only like a couple minutes away. You're going to a whole new location with comfortable seats for the most part and, crack popcorn. You're enjoying time with friends and family in a place other than your own house. It's unique in that way, I think, right?
But I think even though you are right, there are some cons to this. And I think one big one is cost. Movie theater tickets, depending on the theater, obviously, I'm going to name AMC here, expensive. The tickets itself is expensive. The food's expensive. You're better off, going home, either ordering takeout or just sitting there on the couch. You just pay for your streaming service. You have microwave popcorn, which is cheaper than regular popcorn at movie theaters, even though it doesn't taste as good.
Are you saying you're on the side of streaming services here?
I'm saying
Like-
that once in a while going to a movie theater is a good thing, but it's not a constant thing that you'd really want to do.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of this whole thing, but I could see where he's coming from. There's convenience to staying at home, but I feel like if you really invest in going to movies or you really invest in watching a movie, you won't go every day, right? You're paying every once in a while, and even though you're paying for gas, you're paying for the ticket, you're paying for the popcorn, it still works out to be a fun experience, even though it's costly. You don't do it all the time, right? I mean, it depends on who you are, how much you go to the movie theater, but it's not like a constant expense, right?
But I mean, like I said, I barely go to the movie theaters. I'm more of like I stay home. I'm a busy guy. So when I do go to the movie theaters, I only go for the certain movies that you really can't see at home. Now, a good example of a movie that we all thought might have been exclusive was The Flash. Came out this year, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But now it's on Max, HBO Max, now called Max. And you can watch it there. The Batman, same thing. It was released in theaters, but now it's on Max.
All right. Yeah.
So my question is, yeah, you saw it in a movie theater, because I saw both movies in a movie theater, and now I see it at home on not a daily basis, but I can still have access to it. So why did I pay $27 in total plus food and everything for a movie that I could have just sat on my couch and watched at home?
You do have a point because when the Batman came out, which was like what March 4th of 2022,
Something like that. Yeah.
it
something
took
like that.
19 days. I mean 29 days for it to become available on HBO Max. So at that point, there was no point in going to a movie theater. We could just wait an extra 29 days.
And
Yeah,
I-
I see where
yeah.
you're coming from there. Honestly, there are obviously exceptions to this whole thing, but Vansh, you were going to say something before I go into that.
I was gonna say that it is worth mentioning that there are some movies that might not go on any streaming service.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get at. Yeah, like the Across the Spider Verse movie. I'm correct. It is not on any services at all right
Yet.
now. Yet, that's true.
Yet.
But it's been like a couple months, right? So that whole
But it
instant
is on
gratification delay. Yeah, okay.
But
it's
that-
on
but
DVD.
it's
How many
a-
people have a DVD
it's
player,
like-
dude?
You have
If
an
we're comparing
Xbox,
streaming
PlayStation,
services,
you have a PlayStation, you have an Xbox. That's
That's
a DVD
true.
player
That's
right there.
true.
You have a laptop. Yeah, maybe not the Max right now, but they used to have DVD players. You have a Windows computer. You have a DVD player. You have a PC. You might have a DVD
And not to
player.
mention those Blu-ray boxes come with like digital access codes that you can just implement in your phone. You can watch it on the go. You don't even need a DVD player.
I feel like that is a comparison for another time. You have a point. You have a point. But streaming services are not taking Across the Spider-Verse yet. That's, I think, what the point is here. The instant gratification, you can delay that when it's 29 days away from being on streaming services. But, like, Across the Spider-Verse, I still haven't seen it. Yeah, a confession there. I still haven't damn seen it. But I still can't see it until it comes out on streaming services. So, in a way, I regret not going to the theater because that's where I could have
It's like
seen
a
it.
once-in-a-lifetime thing. I think that's what
Yeah.
movie theaters are important for, you know? Just taking the experience and experience it for the very first time and actually have a proper way of experiencing a movie, if that makes sense.
So, I mean, now that we're going into, I guess, certain movies, I wanted to point out a couple of new movies that did come out recently that are still in theaters. You can't get them on any streaming service so far, I think. But one notable and meme-worthy movie type of thing, Oppenheimer and Barbie. Now, I haven't watched Oppenheimer or Barbie, and I was hoping to watch it in movie theaters, but, it doesn't seem like they'll be on streaming services, but at the same time, it might be. Because Paramount Plus, you have Paramount Plus, you have Disney. Where does Oppenheimer fit in?
So actually, I want to touch on that. It seems that showtimes for Oppenheimer will end on like September 7th, if I'm correct. So actually 2 days from now. That's the day we're recording this anyway. But I don't think it really matters where it fits in. Unless it's a Disney movie, they're not going to just hold it on for Disney, right? If it's a Disney movie, it's going to Disney Plus. You know what I mean?
So I just looked at something here. I just Googled this. I'm not sure if this is right or not, but Oppenheimer, after 45 days of its theater release, might be on Peacock.
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 Out of all streaming.
Out of all streaming services, Peacock is making it's climbing the ranks, obtaining a lot of movies. Now they're actually, you actually have to pay. It's not included with Xfinity or with anything else. It is pretty cheap though. It's like $3 a month if you're an Xfinity customer. I'm not sure what the regular price is. Cheaper than Netflix, but
Yeah.
still.
Well, I mean, speaking of Peacock, you have to buy like a premium pass in order to view movies that are exclusive to movie theaters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is a downside, obviously, but at the same time, it is like Oppenheimer might be on a streaming service sooner than we thought.
Yeah, that is something to point out.
I mean, even after bringing up Peacock, I guess it's worthwhile to talk about the pros and cons of streaming services.
Yeah, so I know we have all heard of this, but when the Black Widow movie came out, it immediately went to streaming services instead of just being in theaters. I know that's like kind of a huge side note when talking about the pros and cons, but with the bigger companies, you are guaranteed to probably see them in streaming services. Like Marvel is a big company, Star Wars is a big company, Disney is a big company. Almost all their productions are going to be in streaming services. And the point I'd like to make with this whole thing, like what's the point of me saying this, is the big movies, the movies that probably really matter, will at some point be in streaming services, whether it's immediately after the release, like Black Widow, or a couple months, or I guess a month and a half after the release, like Oppenheimer. I feel like streaming services is a good thing for those that want to wait or want to have the convenience of being at home. They want to watch movies at their own time. So that's the pros I give for streaming services.
Not to be that type of guy. Even though I'm on the side of streaming services, there are a couple cons that come to mind. Obviously, the first thing is pricing. Netflix is getting expensive now. They're introducing some ad plans or whatever sooner or later. And they really decreased anything else, honestly. You can't share your passwords anymore, so they decreased that. And a lot of streaming services have actually started that. Peacock, because I mentioned it earlier, used to be free for Xfinity customers. Now they terminated that agreement, and so they gave everyone a discount if you're an Xfinity customer, $3 a month with the premium pass or whatever, which isn't bad, but that's only up to a year.
Right. Something that just came to mind. I just realized this. When considering what streaming services do in general economically, they kind of destroy the whole concept of like externally sponsoring movies. Because if you're like the type of person to just open your streaming service every day, or like you're always looking for something new, marketing shows or movies is just might actually become irrelevant in some respects. Now that I think about it, like at least for movie theaters, at the very least.
I mean, I completely agree, but I guess it's also worth to mention that there's some series, not movies, but series that aren't shown in movie theaters or shown exclusively on streaming services. One notable one is Loki on Disney Plus, releasing in October, and I think that you're not going to find that in a movie theater. You get what I mean? Like, there are some movies that are worth being expanded upon, and Loki was a series that is worth being expanded upon a lot. And I'm not just talking about, it's a completely off topic as well. I'm not just talking about movies at this point. I'm talking about actual series that could have been films. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I see a pro to that because when you go to movie theater, it's exclusive movies, set amount of time. Whereas streaming services, you have miniseries and even just shows in general. Like you can have really short series like Loki or really long ones like Suits. There's a variety there, not only in length but in content. So yeah, I see the pro there. I really do. You have more variety when you have a streaming service, and it's not a limited amount of time. You can rewatch things at home, whereas at the movie theater, you'll have to pay again.
It is also worth mentioning YouTube is not a streaming service. It is, in this case, it's not. It's mostly targeted to Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus.
But I mean, I'd say when recording like shows for like that are exclusive for different streaming services, I'd say that kind of lowers the quality of the show or movies, because I know Netflix films their own movies as well that you can't watch in movie theaters. But I'd say that significantly lowers the quality of the show,
But how would that lower the quality of the
because you're just
show?
producing them really quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but while you really don't know when the production starts, when does it end? Take COVID for an example. I used this before, but in COVID they stopped production and then they just resumed it after safe protocols and obviously. But even if they do speed up productions, still, there's so many other factors when it comes to production in general.
So out of the two, meaning movie theaters and streaming services, what is more successful right now? I mean, I know I touched upon how streaming services are kind of ruining the economy of movie theaters, like as in they're losing money. So I think that kind of answers this question. What are your guys' thoughts about streaming services kind of taking over not only in convenience but in content?
I think streaming services play a big role in everyone's day-to-day life. I think, people instead won't be like, oh, let's go to a movie theater to watch a movie. Oh, it's on Netflix. Let's go home, sit with a bucket of popcorn and just watch something. Even when it's not with a bucket of popcorn, you can watch it on your phone. Streaming services have made it that you can watch anything, anywhere, whenever you want. Movie theaters have set times, they have set, designations. Movie theaters create jobs as well, but it's kind of like iffy where you have staffing issues, whatever. But streaming services will definitely put movie theaters out of businesses for sure. Not now, but maybe in the long run.
I actually agree with you there because it's more convenient. Like at work, say if you're taking a break, you can just pull out your phone and watch Netflix or any streaming service that you have on your phone, any application you have on your phone. And it's just more convenient that way. You don't have to go to a movie theater.
Right, like a personal example for me. I just started watching Suits, right? It's a long show, right? And you can't find Suits in a movie theater. So I can literally just sit at home.
But what would you say is better though, shows or actual movies?
Well, I don't think it's a question of what's better. It's what has more content. So in movie theaters, you don't have shows, right? On cable, you have shows, but have a certain runtime. Whereas streaming services, you have full control over that as long as you pay the bill. So I can watch Suits whenever I want. In fact, I've been trying to watch an episode a day just to, make sure I don't forget any parts of the story. So yeah, I have that convenience. If I were to compare watching a movie on a streaming service versus a movie at a movie theater, I can rewatch movies. I can watch them whenever I want at a streaming service, whereas I have a set time, a set reservation at a movie theater.
You know what's one big thing though? Sorry to interrupt you, Matthew.
Go ahead.
But at a movie theater, you can't pause the movie.
It's another
You
thing.
can't rewind
But I mean,
it.
if you go to a movie theater, you should expect to just take in the whole movie.
Yeah, but what if you
it's
miss
like
a part?
wine. You
What if you
enjoy
want to
it.
use the bathroom, huh? You missed an entire part, and so now you have to go back with your friend rubbing it in your face that you missed it.
Yeah, that's true. That's
No,
true.
no,
That is-
seriously,
yeah,
seriously.
right.
Streaming services give you that ability. But what about movie theaters? No, they don't. Okay, maybe you might find one or two that are unique and may do that. Maybe in a different country.
Okay, but what do you find more enjoyable, going out or like staying inside the whole day?
I feel like going out is fun, but when it comes to, I guess, actually getting what you want out of the movie and having your own, like at your own convenience, what is at your own convenience? Streaming services. You can pause it, you can rewind it, you can put it on your phone, put it on your TV, your laptop. You can invite as many friends over as you want instead of having to reserve seats. I see getting out. Getting out is fun. It really is. Like if we go to a movie theater and then we can just go to a dinner afterwards or dinner before, that's really fun. You know, it's more personal. Whereas if you go to your house, it isn't. I can see that. But when it comes to just overall convenience, a streaming service is better, which is why I think right now it is more successful.
Streaming services, like I said before, portable. Movie theaters are not. Have you tried to see anybody set up an entire movie theater in their house?
Without it being like horribly time consuming.
Seriously, streaming services, log in, plug and play. That's it. No questions asked.
Or just
Maybe
turn
you-
on your TV.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, I'll say
Sometimes,
that.
sometimes maybe you have to pay the bill again, but
But I mean, it
there's not
just
that
doesn't
many
feel the
steps.
same, you know.
But
I'd rather enjoy the whole movie as a whole than just hearing like the sound coming from one direction. When you can have it come up from all directions at a movie theater.
what if you have a surround sound system? What if you have AirPods?
Those are pretty
There's so many
expensive. And AirPods ruin your ears.
You know what else ruin your ears? Loud noises. Movie theaters have loud noises.
Okay, but that doesn't
Yes,
harm you
got a
guys
point.
much as AirPods because you have them really close.
It depends on how loud the movie is.
Okay, well, how long are usually movies? How loud are they?
Loud?
Really
It
loud.
depends on the decibels. bro.
Right.
So if it's 100
Right.
decibels for like 2 hours,
But
it
you know
can
what we
damage
do
your
have a
ears.
set decibels for? AirPods. Guess how much they admit?
I think they go to like 100.
That's horrible for your ears. Every single time you take off your AirPods, you just hear ringing.
Yeah, okay. But
That's
do you have
because you
control,
have
but
your
do you have control
stuff-
over the AirPods volume? Yes.
Be honest. Do
You
you
have
guys
control
have
over the-
self-control when controlling the volumes? You
Yes.
guys don't.
Yes.
Uh-uh.
I don't go
Yes.
above 7.
Nerd.
I don't go above 80 decibels.
Yeah, I don't go above the 7th notch.
I know you're looking at us like we're weird, but we all know what you do. You raise your AirPods to max volume and listen to music.
Yeah.
Ringing ears are a little different for everybody else.
And you can't control the movie theater volume.
You can't. No, you can't.
Yeah.
But
see?
speaking of movie theater volume, let me just say something. For $27 that you'd spend at the movie theater, and that's
Uh-uh.
just me.
It would be
by the way,
$11.
plus
Depends
food.
on how many people, bro.
Oh,
and
just
also
one
the
person,
food's
one person.
expensive, bro.
For
And the popcorn, like $5 Tuesdays.
$5 Tuesdays. We're gonna go on a weekday.
Who goes on a weekday, bro? I have calc. I think there's a drawback, really. And I feel like we can get to that later in our final thoughts, but there are definitely drawbacks to each, and there are pros to each. And I feel like there's no right or wrong answer with this whole thing. As for what's successful, streaming services, is that a good thing? I don't really know.
I'd say, yeah, no. I mean, they're a good thing because movie theaters are definitely, I would say, are definitely going out of business because there's, like you said, there's no marketing for these movies, and if there's no marketing, they're not going to make enough money to produce more movies. Instead, we'll all go to the streaming services, like on Netflix, constantly always puts out their own movies, Netflix originals, or their own shows.
Especially when you're spending a fortune on production, like the new Indiana Jones movie. That was what, $300 million?
It didn't even make that, even close to 100 million. That's not. It didn't even make that.
That's
much.
actually so sad. They
was
they
like
lost so
39.
much money.
It was horrible.
That's
Because it was
that's
also
tragic.
marketed well, because a lot of people are just watching streaming services. Like Disney Plus doesn't have ads. How are you supposed to know that new movies exist?
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying with that.
Okay, I mean, well, honestly, movie theaters are definitely aren't going to exist or be popular as it was back then. Because now we got streaming services. A whole bunch of other kids are using streaming services. I mean, you see the little kids watching Cocomelon. Who's to say they're not going to watch movies on Netflix, right?
Yeah, if they're growing up with it, you got a point.
Right. You know, they're gonna be more used and more accustomed to sitting down on their couch and actually watching TV, actually watching movies on their TV than actually in the movie theaters. Because at that point, there's no point in going out.
And I want to give like props to movie theaters. There is one thing that is always memorable, and that's the experience. But at the same time, at this point, it's not really the experience that people are looking for anymore. People actually just want to see a movie. I used to see families all the time go to movie theaters, and there's still some families who do. But every time I've been at the movie theater, it's no, you don't see big families, you don't see anyone like that. You just see people just want to see a movie.
Right. I mean, I'm sure all of us, and we had our own moments too, where like our families, like we couldn't talk to each other one night because our families actually want to watch a movie. When we can just go downstairs and watch a movie, you know. There's no
Right.
point in going out.
And I think in a more general sense, ignoring how people feel about this, businesses are, some of them are really suffering from this whole streaming service thing. We were talking about movie theaters in general suffering, like AMC. That's a good example of a company that probably isn't doing well, right? I went to I forgot what location it was, but I went to one after like 4 or 5 years, and it's just a completely different place now. It's a lot more run down, not as much sponsoring, not as many movies playing. So yeah, there's definitely changes happening with these companies. But if we ignore even the movie theater companies, like the companies that are producing these movies are actually not getting a good return on investment. I was just talking about Disney and how Indiana Jones had a horrible net loss from that production, right? I'm sure even Harrison Ford was regretting being in that because he lost some bank. Disney has seriously suffered from streaming services. They promised at their convention that Marvel and Star Wars combined would have 20 productions on streaming services in the next year. They haven't delivered even close to that because they've had to cancel due to budget issues. And even when they do deliver anything, they're not good. The only good thing I think Star Wars has made this year, or the only good things that Star Wars has made this year, is Ahsoka and Andor. The Mandalorian season 3 was horrible. I mean, that's what everyone says that, bro. Everyone's been saying that. I watched it. It was bad.
I think you
It
just
was
like
really bad.
you got
Dude,
the
it
whole
was-
Star Wars fandom coming after you. I'm just saying.
I'm saying it was bad. I'm trying to think of more examples, but if we look to Marvel,
they
She-Hulk,
have not been.
She-Hulk, Ant-Man, Quantumania.
There
one
was
title.
a lot of times where just shows, movies were terrible. And while we're on the topic of Marvel, DC, there's a lot of controversy surrounding a couple of movies, DC movies that released, The Flash, Blue Beetle. Now, keep in mind for people who don't know this, but me, Matthew, and Eric, we all saw The Flash together. We haven't seen Blue Beetle yet, right? Eric, have you seen it?
I've seen it already.
Eric's has seen it. Eric thinks it's peak, right?
I did not say that, but I do agree.
Yeah, he likes the movie.
see, he likes the movie. But I've heard a lot of people just desperately hate the movie.
I wouldn't say that though, because a lot of people just don't like DC in general because of what Zack Snyder did. That's a whole discussion for another day. But they just hate it because of what Zack Snyder made previously before.
I want to point out. So while these we're saying that people hate these movies, they're not our opinions. We have not seen them yet, but based on reviews is what we're going by here. But when we're talking about streaming services hurting companies, what's ironic about this whole thing is that The Flash, Blue Beetle, they aren't even on streaming services. Like when they got released, they were bad. You know, you'd think that when you put in all that effort to put it in theaters, it'd have a good return. But they haven't. Like just in general, I don't know if it's because of just
I think
inflation. But
I know for a fact that Blue Beetle had no good marketing whatsoever, especially with the strike that's going on too. Like a
Yeah.
lot of companies can't promote their movies that are coming out.
Now, the one thing I just wanted to say, because I just looked this up. So AMC, as we all know and love, nice, great theaters, very expensive. But if you did not know, their stock has been tumbling down. Lots of decisions. At one point, the company was going to go bankrupt, but some meme stock actions kind of saved the company. But AMC is in a whole bunch of debt, and it's quite literally just making it worse. And not only the fact that their primary income comes from movie theaters and maybe external other factors, I haven't read much into it, but no one's going to their movie theaters because of how expensive this is. The last couple movies that we saw, where do we go? Marcus Theaters, right?
Marcus, yeah.
Yeah,
Marcus
here in
Theaters
Elgin.
was cheaper. But at the same time, for the same movie, you go to AMC, how much is that ticket?
It's more. It's like $20.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
$20.
it's expensive.
And I want to point this out. On the whole general argument of movie theaters versus streaming services, one movie, if you really think about it, could equal the amount you pay for a streaming service a month. So really, what are companies getting back? That's where I think that that's what I find interesting about this whole thing is even when companies like Disney do release Indiana Jones in theaters and then put it to streaming services, they're losing money based on it being a bad movie, but also the fact that they're putting it in streaming services and keeping it in movie theaters for only a certain amount of time.
That is true. Like I think, what's that movie called? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
That
the new
recently
one.
came out back in August,
Yep.
like very like mid August, and
It's
now
a
it's on
movie?
Paramount. Oh yeah, it's like
Right
an
at-
animated movie.
It just
Oh,
came
okay.
out.
It just came out, but it's on Paramount now.
Dude, I don't even think it's been a month.
They don't let them breathe. Essentially, it's
Well-
like the companies also know that movie theaters are also failing.
Wow.
And I mean, everything's predetermined. I mean, if you Google like Oppenheimer, when is it going to be in streaming services? There are so many people who have predetermined dates.
Yeah, and unless they like, okay, well, Oppenheimer's kind of an exception. They did say it'd be on streaming services. I think late August. They pushed it back because of how successful it is. But they usually have a date where they're like, you know what? Nope, we're done. Yeah, Vaughn, you are right about that. And that's what I think is really wrong about the whole thing. Is like, it's like they have a death date for him, bro. Then they just go on like streaming services.
No, not Manifest.
Ah,
no.
Manifest reference.
I mean, do you think they can like fix movie theaters, essentially,
Unless they get rid of streaming services, dude. I don't know if it really.
or unless
I
they pull a
think it's-
Netflix?
I think it's too gone. I
it's
think
too far gone.
I
bro.
think the business is too far gone, and it is time to modernize everything. I know
You
in
just call the whole
Oppenheimer,
generation of old people. You know that, right?
I,
They should not just take a competence that's like.
no,
oh
no, that's all the way in July, man.
yeah,
These
yeah.
are some interesting final thoughts here. honestly.
But I guess what I kind of have to leave off at is movie theaters aren't a part of the future. You know, there's so many different opportunities for streaming services, but there's not that many for movie theaters. And even though the experience is valuable and memorable, and yeah, like you said, we could go to dinner afterwards and whatever. There's so many other experiences they can have. I mean, we're just putting this to movie theaters and streaming services, but there's so much that, you know, is closing down, like from different industries, because now you can do the same things at home.
Arcades. That's a great example.
Yeah,
Who
arcades.
goes to an arcade unless it's a kid's birthday party? You know, I love arcades. I really
Chuck
do.
E. Cheese.
I know, like that was
Great
so
pizza.
fun. But like now, I could just buy the game on Steam and have it forever.
You know what? He has a point. Yeah.
I could
Everything's
literally-
so
I could get-
modernized.
I can get Metroid, the old Metroid games on Steam or the old Doom games on Steam. I have it forever, literally forever. It won't go away.
That will make more people introverted, though, in my opinion.
I
I,
mean,
think that's why we should keep
there are
movie
drawbacks
theaters,
to this,
you know?
right? I feel like, all right, here's what my final thoughts are for the whole thing. Let me start with streaming services. It's way easier to compare with streaming services. I feel like they are more audience friendly, but do not offer more socialization, which I feel like movie theaters are the opposite of that. Movie theaters, even though it costs a lot more, they're less audience friendly in that regard. You'll have a set time to watch them. You can't pause, rewind the movie. You still socialize more. Like, how many times have you gone to a movie theater and been like, actually, guys, you want to do something else after this? That was so fun. Or like, you want to go to Red Robin or something?
A
Like,
couple times.
yeah, people do that. You know, it's not an
did
abnormal
that.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So I feel like there are drawbacks to both. If I were to compare this to a war, I feel like streaming services is winning. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I know, Eric, you were at the beginning of this episode, you were on team movie theaters. But after hearing all this, what are your final thoughts on this?
Honestly, from what I've heard from like both of you guys, and just from my own personal experience, I think streaming services are the way to go. But I don't know, movie theaters still have like a very very soft place in my heart. Because I mean, it's fun being there. It's fun being there watching movies.
I completely agree. We shouldn't get rid of movie theaters completely, obviously.
Which make them more expensive, right?
No,
No, I'm kidding.
no.
yeah.
I think there isn't going to be a lot of them left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you could maybe try and repair things, change how you market, even make movies cheaper. But in the end, theory can only take you so far.
And with that, thank you, Matthew and Eric, for that insightful conversation. Big thank you to our listeners, and a special thank you to our sponsor for today's podcast. Just reminding you guys, Columbia College of Missouri. At Columbia College of Missouri's Elgin location, you can invest in your future while earning an accredited degree faster with 8-week classes, starting 6 times a year. Columbia's flexible classes are designed with working adults in mind. Columbia offers classes online, in person on ECC's campus, or virtual, wherever you are. Transfer seamlessly from Elgin Community College or let Columbia College of Missouri review your courses from any college. A bachelor's degree may be closer than you think. Apply today at no cost at elgin.ccis.edu. That's elgin.ccis.edu. And a huge special thanks to our editor, Indy Wilson. And to learn more about The Observer and to see our work, visit elginobserver.com. Follow us on Instagram at Observer Newspaper and on TikTok at Elgin Observer. Until next time, I'm Vanj,
I'm Eric.
I'm Matt.
and we'll see you next time.